What if I told you sleeping with a man too early could be the difference between him treating you like a wife and treating you like a peasant? What if I also told you it is so easy to slip up if you don't come to that date already prepared with your strategy in mind? It's exactly why on today's show, we're gonna be discussing how to avoid sex so men fall in love with you. That way you can anticipate his moves and not get put in a position where he sees you as anything other than the princess you wanna be treated as. So let's imagine two scenarios. And in the first scenario, let's imagine you are here, the man is here, and you are here. And let's imagine in this scenario, you got a whole bunch of people around you two because you're on a date. This is something very important that I want you to understand. Isolation is one of the easiest ways to fall for the trick that men will use to try to put themselves in a better position to be able to sleep with you. Now, let's be real. They're not necessarily always gonna actually pressure you and force you to sleep with you, hopefully not. But what they're gonna do is they're gonna make the environment very friendly to you making the mistake, it's a mistake, of sleeping with him too early because the vibes are right. Okay, this is kind of the new era, the new age of the player stuff, right? They know how to set the vibe so well that you feel you're getting along so good with him. And the vibe is so right. You know, the kids love vibes nowadays. The vibe is so right that you feel in your mind, oh, it makes sense for me to sleep with you because everything is going well. I feel good, you feel good, we both feel good, your hands feel good on me, I haven't been touched in a long time, and you start making mistakes. When you and him just sharing a moment, looking in each other's eyes underneath the candlelight, and there's nobody else for miles, right? It's just you and him able to connect with each other. This is good. But what I want you to understand is this is also a strategy, especially on these first few dates. Because when men are in a situation like this where there's a lot of people around, what they can't be, right? What they can't be, they cannot be bold. What I mean by bold is it's very difficult for them to make moves on you because they understand this is quite an uncomfortable place to make a move on you in a way where you'll actually feel comfortable accepting that move, accepting that progression, and allowing things to escalate. I.e., for example, if a guy's on a dinner date with you, yeah, he might kiss you on the cheek. Yeah, he might give you a kiss on the lips once or twice, but he's not gonna full on start making out with you at the dinner table. At least most guys won't. Maybe a few might, all right, that are really horned up. But most guys won't be bold enough to start making out with you or put their hand on your inner thigh while you're right at the restaurant on the date. But as soon as you get in isolation with that man and it's just you and him sitting, watching Netflix, or even just in an isolated place, you could be alone together in the forest. I hope you're not alone together in the forest with the man you just met, but you could be alone together in a forest with a man, all right? You could be out, you could be in the car with a man, all right? So I don't want you to think of isolation simply as just going to his house. Isolation is just when you're able to be away from other people and have some sort of privacy. On these first couple of dates, I know privacy in itself is not a bad thing, but privacy can become an aid for the men to accomplish their goal of being able to sleep with you very early on. Because if they can add privacy and then eliminate all the other barriers that would make you uncomfortable, what are they doing? They're setting the vibe right. So I want you to kind of, with everything that I'm going to discuss here today, right? Isolation is obviously number one. I want you to be taking in that these strategies, while they are meant to make you feel more comfortable and set the vibe and set the mood, I don't want the fact that they're able to set the mood so well and the vibe so well to get you tricked into thinking, oh, the vibe is so good, I should sleep with you. That's a mistake. All right, let's go on to number two. A time limit for your dates is so important for multiple reasons. I've talked about time limits for dates because you want the men to also want to go on a second date with you. The second issue or problem with a very long date is exactly what I'll explain to you within this graph, okay? We're not gonna get too deep into math here. I just wanna use this graph to help you understand something, okay? So, for you, essentially, this is kind of like a linear graph because when you start off, right, at the beginning of your date, you haven't spent any time with him. You're not very comfortable with him, especially if he's a stranger. But as time is progressing, okay, you're starting to feel more and more and more and more comfortable with this man, right? Because as time is going on, you're having more conversation, you're getting to know him, he's telling you backstory about his life, he's telling you maybe a little bit about his traumas, and you're sharing information back and forth with him as well, hopefully not too much. But this is all aiding in making you feel more comfortable in your relation, or in this situation that you're having with him on this date. Nothing wrong with becoming more comfortable, but what I want you to understand, and this is why it can be so dangerous, because we're talking about avoiding sleeping with men. When you spend too much time on those dates, the comfort level can start to increase to a point where you feel like, oh, like we've been together. Like me and you are really a thing. Because it's unnatural for you to spend so much intimate one-on-one time with one person unless you're really close. So at this point, once we cross like a threshold, you start to feel like me and this guy have been really together for a while. I feel so comfortable around you. I can't believe how easy it is to talk to you. I can't believe how well we're getting along. This is an issue though, because this is part of the process where you can start to gaslight yourself and convince yourself that this is actually the right person I should be giving myself to, I should be sleeping with, because this relationship is a lot deeper than any relationship I've ever had. And this is gonna sound weird, but as time goes on, your delusions can grow, okay? Your delusions can grow because now you're kind of riding off of this high, this mental high of being with the person, feeling good around the person, and especially if they're adding on love bombing you, telling you how beautiful you are, telling you how much they want to be with you. This high that you're just sniffing in and taking in when you're on this date can start to feel so intoxicating that you're not even able to think straight anymore. And this is the issue here. Because when you spend too much time, you can become so intoxicated with the high that you feel around the person and the comfort that you feel around the person that you think, okay, well, now is the time to sleep with you. So the way to circumvent that means the way to work against that and realize how to kind of avoid doing that. What you want to do is you want to make sure there's a time limit for all of your dates. I don't care how handsome he is, how tall he is, how rich he is, that he wants to take you to his house, he wants to take you to another party, he wants to take you here, he wants to take you on a boat ride. And no matter, listen to me, no matter how good the date is going, you do not extend the date past your set time limit. Okay, and I talked to you guys about time limits on dates before. So if your time limit on this date is 2 hours, you do not extend that date past the 2 hours. Even if you're having the best time of your life, don't extend the date. Because as soon as you extend the date and you go farther than your intended time limit, it's gonna make it easy for you to say, okay, I'm just gonna base this about how I feel on this date and I'm enjoying it. So 2 hours will become 2.5. Then 2.5 will come, you'll say, oh, I'm enjoying it so much, let's make it 3. And then 3 will come, you'll take a couple drinks, you'll say, oh, let's make it 4. Let's go back to your place. Let's sit around and we'll cuddle. Let's lay in the bed. You can jackrabbit yourself inside of me, and now you've made a lot of mistakes. You're coming to me, asking me how to reverse everything. Let's go on to number 3, and I won't lie to you. This is gonna be the most difficult one and the most painful one. Okay, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of you won't want to hear this one, but I do have to put it in here because I do have to be honest with you. We have to kind of understand what we're shooting for to understand why I say this, okay? And this is not meant to diss anyone, okay? I used to drink too. I don't want you to think that I think I'm better than you or I'm more evolved than you. I just want you to understand this concept so you can see why I say this, okay? So stay with me here. The reason I want you to stay sober, right? Let's look at this as a timeline. We'll call this the girlfriend timeline. So at the end here, this is where you end up as his girlfriend. So at this point where you're his girlfriend, which is where you eventually want to go, hopefully with the guys that you're dating, right? You envision yourself being his girlfriend. There's a very important timeline of events that has to go on in order for this to eventually happen, because you're not going to make yourself his girlfriend. He's going to make you his girlfriend, and then hopefully his wife. So this process is predicated on how he feels about you and what his perception is of you. Because based on how he feels about you and his perception of you, he will progress the relationship from just, we'll put here, dating, all the way to making you his girlfriend, okay? And along the way, you'll have different milestones, like meeting his friends, right? You'll maybe at one point, you'll meet his fam, right? At one point, let's say you might become exclusive, even though you meeting his friends and family probably will come after, right? Exclusive, right? And you'll just have all of these different milestones leading up to becoming his girlfriend. Now, what I want you to kind of take in here is that it's very important for you to understand this timeline of events moves like time does, okay? Meaning, right? It has a beginning, has a middle, and it has an end. And just like in our three-dimensional world, as far as we know, okay, the world that we live in, you can't go backwards in time. So as you're progressing here onto this girlfriend timeline, remember, you're not making yourself his girlfriend. He has to make you his girlfriend, which means he has to operate off of his desire to be with you and want more from this relationship to progress this to each and every different level. Are you following me? So this is so important to understand, because if you make the mistake of getting drunk, getting high on your date, to the point where you're no longer able to control the things that you say or do, and you make the mistake of sleeping with him or just doing some things that you wouldn't have done if you were sober, now all of a sudden, this timeline of events that is supposed to progress a particular way to get to the end goal of being his girlfriend has been interrupted, because his perception of you has changed or adjusted or been negatively impacted. And at that point, you can't go backwards in time, right? You're not going to be able to go backwards in time and fix things that you've made mistakes of. So if you're progressing here, right, on these dates, and let's just say you get to a point over here, you get drunk on the first couple of dates or something like that, and now all of a sudden he sees you a whole different way, or he sees a side of you that he isn't in line with him thinking that you're a wife or you're someone that he actually wants to build with, all of a sudden, you're having to backtrack and say, but wait, I met your fam and your friends and this and that. Or if you make the mistake of doing it up here or any one of these places before you're actually ready for that in the relationship, you're going to be starting to scramble and thinking to yourself, wait, but I want you to still view me as who I am. And that was just me when I was drunk. Okay. But sober me wants to be treated like a wife. I was just drunk. When I'm drunk, I like to get slutted out, but it's just, that was not the real me. The real me is here with you on a Tuesday afternoon. Don't worry about what we did before. I want you to take me seriously still. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So the reason I say that is if you go out on this date, right? I'm not poo-pooing on drinking or smoking, okay? Do what you want with your life. But if you're going on these dates with the intention of having the guy that you're dating eventually take you from dating to making you his girlfriend, you do have to be hyper aware of his perception of you, okay? I'm not saying that you have to do everything in your power to make him like you, but you do have to be aware. If you drink or you smoke, you're more likely to say and do things you probably wouldn't say if you weren't drunk or you weren't high. So keep that in mind when you're on your dates, and understand you can never, ever lose if you go on a date and stay sober. You never lose that way. Some of you might say to me, well, Tomisin, look, I don't need your advice. I'm good on my own. I know how to handle my liquor. I can go out on a fun night out, have my fun, drink just a little bit, take a couple of shots, and I'll be perfectly fine. I'll even be more interesting because I'll be buzzed. I'll be just tipsy enough to have conversation and I won't be awkward. Tomisin, you don't know what you're talking about. I know what I'm doing. Cool. But what I will say is it's very easy to go into the date thinking you have control over it and your situation. Trust me, I've been there. I'm not saying this as someone who's like, oh, I've never drank before and I'm telling you not to drink, okay? Or I've never done things before and I'm telling you not to do anything, right? Or have any fun. I'm telling you this as someone who's also said to myself, yeah, I got control of this. I'll go out, just a couple of drinks, just to get the vibe right. I'll just want to feel good. Then when I get there, 1 drink turns into 2, 2 turns into 3, 3 turns into 4, and all of a sudden I'm drunk now. Then when you start saying and doing things that don't represent you the way that you want to be represented as, you wake up the next day saying to yourself, oh my God, I'm an idiot. I should have just never drank in the first place. It happens all the time, okay? And those of you who are drinkers know that feeling of regret, right? Even if it's not in the sense of your romantic relationships, you know the regret of waking up the next day and remembering all the cringe things that you said or did while out drunk or high, whatever your thing is. So the reason I say that is because if the relationship is this important to you and you're taking it that seriously, you can never ever lose by simply staying sober. You don't want to be in a position where you're saying, oh, I've got it under control. You go out on the date, you get a little bit too drunk, you slip up, you sleep with him, or even if it's not sleeping with him, you let him, bury his head between your legs, or you're putting your head between his legs and you guys are enjoying each other. And then you wake up the next day saying, I probably shouldn't have done that. That's the worst thing that can happen to you because time is linear. Okay, like I just described to you. And this timeline of events, you can't go back and undo mistakes. So understand, if you're taking it seriously and you want to be taken seriously, you're better off making sure that you don't have the opportunity to make a mistake where you look back and you say, oh, I should have done that differently. Number 4, passive experiences, especially on a date, is a one-way ticket to Pound Town. But this version of Pound Town is only going to last one night. It's only going to last 90 seconds. And for the rest of, your experience with that guy and your relationship, you'll be very upset about the decision you made in that moment. So what do I mean by that? Man is over here. You, let me make this dark, are over here, okay? Now, when you're watching a movie or a TV show or The Office or whatever it is, this can feel like, I'm spending time with this guy. And in the process of spending time with this guy, we're just experiencing something together, whether it be watching a movie, watching a TV show, watching whatever. Here's the problem though, okay? And this is actually separate from isolation. I want you to kind of take this in. Passive experiences actually are a breeding ground for mistakes. Why? Because when you're in a passive experience, you're thinking to yourself, we're both paying attention to the TV or the movie or whatever's on the screen here, okay? What's actually happening is this is playing in the background, but your actual focus for the both of you is on this right here, right? When I'm circling this, what I mean by that is it's on what's going on in between you guys, whether it be some sort of tension, okay? Some sort of touching, caressing, whatever's going through your mind, okay? And we always say, in the Players Club and just in general, this kind of a life thing, right? An idle mind is the devil's playground, okay? Meaning this is when bad things happen. Because we can consider this, when you're watching a movie, this passive experience, we can consider this what we would describe as downtime, right? This isn't really an experience that requires your attention. Doesn't require you to think, doesn't really require you to talk, doesn't require you to really even be paying attention. It's very passive. It's like listening to music, okay? Where you can do it while doing something else. This is the problem though. When you get in a position where you're having this passive experience with a guy, especially when you add some of these other elements like isolation, now you're in a recipe for the disaster. Because like I said, you're not paying attention to the movie. And there actually isn't anything to stimulate your mind enough that requires your attention enough, so your mind starts focusing more on this. Your mind and also his mind. This is why, I have to be honest with you, okay? When men are strategizing the best way to sleep with you as early as possible, they're gonna combine a whole bunch of elements together in order to make the subconscious pressure on you, sorry, I shouldn't say pressure, to make the environment for you to sleep with him as comfortable and as easy a decision as possible, okay? So the men aren't necessarily forcing you to sleep with them, but they're curating an environment that makes it very easy to say yes. Are you following me? Okay? This is very important and a very important concept for you to understand. If you're not aware of what is going on and how the vibes are being curated to make it very easy to say yes, you won't be aware until it finally happens to you, okay? Now, I don't want to get too graphic here, but this is why you can feel like when you meet someone and sleep with them on the first night, you can wake up the next day, and some of you guys can let me know if this happened to you, okay? You can wake up the next day and feel a little bit tricked, especially if you wake up the next day and the guy has a totally different energy towards you, as if he is totally uninterested in you or doesn't care about you. And you're feeling a little bit duped because the night before, the vibes were so heavy, so intense, so good, you felt like there was no other option but to say yes because the vibes were so nice. But all of a sudden, the vibes switch up by the next morning after he got what he wanted. So it's not him pressuring you from the sense of actually forcing you to do it, but the environment is curated such that you feel like, I should say yes to this. This is perfect. The candles are lit, the music is playing, this is in the background, we're under the blanket, we're cuddling, right? This is a passive experience. I'm thinking about him, he's thinking about me, we're getting a little bit closer, and then by the time you do it, and afterwards, the vibes are no longer there. So the reason I say that is because these are part of the things you have to be thinking about when you're on your dates, and also subsequently thinking about how you're going to avoid this. So how do you avoid a passive experience? What I want for you to start doing is only accepting dates that require interaction, either interaction or some sort of experience in which you guys actually have to be paying attention to what's going on, or else it doesn't work. So if that guy invites you to, an art class or a painting class or something, that's good. If he says, let's go to a picnic, right? That's conversation, you're at a picnic, you're in public, that's good. If he says, let's go to the movie theater, no. Passive experience, especially if he can take you to a movie that is very old, that nobody's in the theater, what do you think the first thing he's gonna do is? He's gonna try some stuff. And then once he gets the gateway drug in, right? Once he tries some stuff that works at the movie theater, what do you think the first thing he's gonna do when you guys get in the car is? Or what do you think the first thing he's gonna do when, you guys get back to his place after the movie theater is? So you're just setting yourself up for failure by saying yes to one of those type of dates. It's a date. So what I want from you is you only accept dates that require an actual, to be attentive, paying attention, and to be present, right? And here, mentally and spiritually and emotionally on the date in order for the date to work. Not an experience where both of you can sit back and not actually be having conversation or connecting. It doesn't even benefit you anyways, because by the time you finish this movie, by the time you finish anything, right? It's like this, right? Whether it be a movie, even a play sometimes. I know plays can be something that you like to do with your date or whatever, but you don't know that person any better. And remember, when you're on these dates, and if you're avoiding sleeping with him too early, then that means if it's that early, you should be spending all of that valuable time in the early stages getting to know him better anyways. Those early stages shouldn't be spent together doing a passive experience that doesn't allow you to gather more information about him. Number 5, transportation is a key element to doing dates the right way. Let's break this down. If you're in a situation where this guy is giving you a ride, right? And he is your way to get home, there's an issue here. Very, very important issue. If he is your way to get there and back, he will be able to hold this against you, and you can easily become a hostage on this date. You'll also be more likely to say yes to things. Why? Because he has something that he can hold against you. I know this sounds horrible. You might think to yourself, okay, well, Tomisin, it's not that big a deal. Will it really be that big a deal if he drives me there and back? I mean, he's probably just being a gentleman. This is the problem though. When you're in a situation, right, where he has what we would describe as leverage, he now is in a position where he can ask things of you or do things that he wouldn't regularly do, knowing that you are in a position where if you say no to him, you might lose out on an opportunity or the thing that he's offering to you. So what do I mean by that in this scenario? If he, let's say, is taking you an hour away to this date that you guys are going on for the first time, or the second date is to a sushi bar, okay? And it's a special sushi bar an hour away, and he's the one driving you. Yes, he's being a gentleman, but I do want you to understand this can get very dicey very quickly, because now What if he says, okay, I'm gonna drive you to the sushi bar an hour away. When you get to the sushi bar, you guys have a good time. You're like, okay, it's 2 hours, I wanna go home. And he's like, but wait, my house is just, 20 minutes away, and I wanna stop there before I drop you off and, get some stuff that I need to put in my car. I have to. What are you gonna say then? Are you gonna pay $100 to Uber yourself back home? Or are you you're more likely to say, okay, I guess, we can stop at your place since, you just have to grab something from your place while, since it's on the way there. Then when you stop on the way there, he's gonna say, oh, you know what? I don't wanna leave you in the car, leave the car running. This is a bad neighborhood. I'm gonna park, you come up. And then we'll come back down. Then you go up to his apartment, you're sitting there waiting, and he's like, yo, you know what? You want some wine? You want to just vibe? Like we're here anyways. And then all of a sudden you're in a situation where, because you're more likely to say yes, and he has a lot of leverage, now you're like, sure, is that what you want to do? Yeah, I'm kind of tired. I just feel like chilling just for a little bit, maybe before we drive. We'll smoke some shisha, okay? Whatever your thing is. Guys aren't dumb. They know how to set the vibe. You want some shisha? They know it in your eyes if you're one of those type of, you like shisha? I got shisha, right? You want to smoke? I got weed. You want wine? They know. Whichever one of your vices are, they know. And they'll offer it to you. And then when they have leverage, it's one of those things that they can add on. Then once you're in the situation and they set the vibe right, now he's got you. You wanted to set a 2-hour date and only go to a sushi bar. Now you're at his place and you slept with him. Just like that. So what do instead? You always have your own plan, whether it be car or transportation, that you're going to get there separate from him. That way you can leave whenever you want. You need to keep your ability to say no at all times. You never want to give up your leverage or ability to say no to guys, especially when you're on those first couple of dates and you don't actually know that guy. This one's gonna sound very weird to you. When you go out on a date with a guy and you tell him, look, we just sat down on this date. Before we even order our appetizers, I want you to know, I will not be sleeping with you. I'm not that type of girl. I'm not the girl that you think that you're just gonna, take me out on one date and I'm gonna go back to your place and you're gonna jackrabbit yourself inside of me. I'm so different than all the other girls, and you will never get that opportunity to do that with me. So if you're here for anything like that, just know, swiper, no swiping. Don't bother going on your date and standing up tall and telling men how you're not gonna do this and not gonna do that. There's a very weird and strange reason for this. I'm gonna kind of describe this to you. When you tell men, no, I'm not gonna sleep with you, I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna do that, what you do is you inspire his desire to test your ability to say no. So when you tell him, I'm not gonna sleep with you, I'm not like that, I'm not like any of these other girls, now you're actually creating a challenge. So he's going to test you. He's also gonna throw everything at you. What I mean by that is, because now you've made it a challenge that, hey, I'm not gonna sleep with you on the first night. He's gonna be thinking, oh, you wanna bet you're not gonna sleep with me on the first night? Let's really see if you're not gonna sleep with me on the first night. So then you create a situation where, because he's knowing that you're telling him what you're not gonna do, he thinks to himself, if I set this mood really, 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 really well, I could probably get her to flip. Why? Because now you've actually created a kind of a fun scenario for him where this can be like a test for his ego to see, am I really so charming that when a girl tells me no, by the end of the night, I can convince her to say yes? You want to know why this is like a weird ego thing for men? Because they realize and recognize that there's other times and other situations where girls said things that they're not going to do. I'm not like this, I'm not like that, only to end up going back on their word. So it's like a test of how amazing, handsome, and charming am I, that I can get this girl who once said she wasn't going to do this and wasn't going to do that to actually end up doing it, right? And they wake up the next day after doing it or accomplishing it like even more of the man, because they didn't just accomplish sleeping with someone who wanted to sleep with them. They accomplished sleeping with someone who said they weren't going to sleep with them. So then they get a really nice story to tell their boy. I know it sounds weird. I know it sounds strange, but I'm just telling you the truth of how the men think. So you don't even want to set yourself up for the extraness that a man will add, the sauce that a man will add on it when you tell him how I'm not going to sleep with you on this first date. You're more inclined to just be neutral, because then, right, his response will also be neutral. He's going to have to guess, right, what you want, guess what you need, and he's going to be less motivated. What I mean by motivated, he's going to be less motivated to try to throw everything at you to try to make this a reality, as weird as it sounds. You're not inspiring or adding the extra challenge onto it that, hey, if you actually do get me to change my mind, that shows you how much of the man you are, okay? It just doesn't serve you, okay? You're better off, and the reason I'm saying this is because if you know that you're gonna go out on a date with the guy and not sleep with him, you're better off just not sleeping with him and applying everything that we talked about and just doing it. Because by the time you do it, it's all the same, okay? You don't have to talk about how you're not gonna sleep with the guy or not gonna do this and not gonna do that. It doesn't do you any good. Because if you slip up even a little bit, it makes you look very weak. So we'd rather just have you stand on business and let him see by the way you stand on business that you mean business. So you're going to find yourself an accountability friend. When you're not thinking about how the things you're doing right now affect your future and you're going moment to moment, it's the easiest way. Logic is understanding that there is always a cause and effect, and understanding that if he does something and my response is this, that's going to affect things in the future. That's going to affect how he feels about me. That's going to affect a lot of things. And there's also a domino effect to the decisions that you're making. Meaning, you can't just make decisions about how you feel, right? You have to be making decisions about what is truly best for you in the sense of what is best for your future. What is the reason that I want an accountability friend for you? I want an accountability friend for you because of these reasons. This accountability friend is going to be able to help you and keep you accountable to not making the mistake of going about how you feel moment to moment and reminding you of your long-term, we'll put down here, long-term goals, as opposed to living in the short term. What is this accountability friend gonna do for you? What you're gonna do is this accountability friend, you're gonna tell about your the date that you're going on. When you tell this accountability friend about the date that you're going on, you're gonna tell her exactly how long this date's gonna last, okay? And where you're going. I'm so serious about this. I'm so serious about this. That way, she knows at this time you're supposed to be there, and you are gonna actually have a conversation with her about this. I just want you to check in with me at 9 o'clock, our date's supposed to be over, that it's actually over, or check my location or whatever it may be, okay? The reason I say this is because when you get on that date, you can come in with all your big bad rules and boundaries and I'm the sheriff of this town. And then when you're actually on the date and you like the guy, all of that stuff that you plan to do and say and present yourself goes out the window and you're just thinking about how much you like this guy. Horrible, okay? We need a friend for you that will bring you back to earth and remind you of all of these long-term goals. So when it's 9 o'clock, and you're thinking to yourself, maybe I'll extend the date for another 10 minutes, that accountability friend is gonna text you, and if you don't answer the text, she's gonna call you. Girl, where you at? You said you were gonna be down at the sushi spot at 9 o'clock. You better not be at his house, okay? I know it sounds a little bit childish, but you need an accountability friend.